So now I'll introduce Dr. Christie, and I just am so impressed with you. It's really been a pleasure to know in the short time Dr. Christie. Fabulous on the phone. We had dinner with her last night, and she holds a PhD in counseling psychology and has developed an expertise in understanding higher education culture and advising academic leadership. And she is an enthusiastic consultant, coach, and trainer in the areas of building collaborative leadership and customer service. Her goal is to facilitate staff-faculty relationships to improve productivity, education and research. She's the author of Working Effectively with Faculty and has consulted and presented extensively throughout the U.S. at peer institutions such as University of Michigan, Oregon Health Sciences University, UCSF, and Berkeley. Susan gained an appreciation for the complexity of academic culture and staff-faculty relationships, first as a tenured psychology professor and then as a consultant and trainer for dozens of universities and colleges. Susan's program today is the Faculty and Staff Relationship, Working Effectively for Success. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Christie.
So, faculty work styles, priorities, mindsets can sometimes put them at cross purposes with your priorities, work styles, and mindsets. And academic institutions are such wonderful and complex places. I'm going to do my best today to bring you a perspective on the structure of a Tier 1 university, University of Washington included, and to show you some of the inevitable dynamics of staff and faculty. In my book, I have lots of tactics like how do you convince a faculty member you can really help her? And then I'll have the question and bulleted items of ideas for 2 or 3 pages, or how do you get someone to respond to you? And we won't be able to deal with all of those today. But here's where I thought we'd go. Universities are indeed different from most other organizations. And when I first piloted this program at Stanford, someone kind of back there put up his hand and said, Susan, we need to understand faculty are a different species immersed in a different culture. Would you agree with that? Yeah, we hope we have some faculty in the room. And we intend to talk it at everybody in the most compassionate and respectful way, working effectively with faculty, and we do have some sense of serving them, but not being doormats, right? And how can we partner with them most effectively? And strategies and best practices. So here we go. Generalizations are always risky. I used to teach a course called The Psychology of Men and Women. It's a political topic, right? Blacks and whites. If we talk about music professors and physics professors, we're making generalization, cat people and dog people. We know that we need to treat everybody as a unique individual, that the generalizations may not fit, and yet they're helpful, and we're doing it anyway. So we use the generalizations as a starting point. So here we go. How many of you have worked in the private sector? Hey, so what was it like when you first came to UW? Talk to me.
With a different language.
A different language and all those acronyms. What else? Better. And?
I used to work in the fishing industry where it was very easy to tell who was the big producer.
Yes.
And you come to the university and you find it's much more difficult and it leads to different kinds of conflicts.
Different kinds of conflicts, different kind of power structures. Yeah. What I hear at most universities, and it's very interesting not to be hearing it here, but most people say, Well, it's kind of bureaucratic, and how do you get anything done around here? Can you relate to that? I thought so. Yeah. So let's just think about this corporate structure. So here we have the boxes all lined up and connected because there are some clear goals around profitability, customer satisfaction, market share. And you remember, those of you, they measured everything, cycle time and cost and waste, and all these nested goals. Everybody knew how he or she was contributing to the bottom line. And we looked at value added. Well, then often it was the people at the lower part of the chart who created the products or who indeed were providing the services. Is that true for you? I think so. So what are the products and services at UW? I love the phrase UW. It doesn't make me feel like I'm just right here. What are the products and services here? Education? You got it. Look at that. Education and research. And who provides that? And where do they fit? At the top, yeah. But rank is very important to faculty. Yeah. And did you notice that I made a chart but I didn't connect the boxes? Why not? Well, it's not clear who they report to very frequently. Who do faculty report to? I get lots of answers to this because most faculty really see themselves as solo contributors, and they are looking to be, especially at a wonderful university like this, famous, recognized among a worldwide cohorts of specialists in their particular field, and they're not even on campus. Do you see this here? They want to contribute, to make an impact on the world beyond campus, way beyond your policies and procedures. Yeah. But of course, they couldn't do it without you. And most universities agree with this chart quite a lot, that you have a structure rather like a corporation. And most staff members, and I mean anyone who doesn't have faculty rank, all up and down, report to other staff members. And at dinner last night, I learned that many of you report directly to faculty members. Is that right? Let me see. Do you? And do they do your performance reviews? Do they delegate clearly? Do they expect you to be a mind reader? Sure. We often have an exercise, little time for it today. But if I were to ask you, would you please list the opportunities and challenges that you experience in your work with faculty? Just think about it a moment. I'd like to tell you what happens. Frequently, like almost always, I have people sitting at tables and talking it over and making some notes. They start on the challenges side, and somebody is telling a story about, you won't believe this one. Look what happened to me. This was painful. This was 2 years ago. And the energy in the room goes down, and I realize there are lots of wonderful opportunities, but when I do this exercise, I realize that many people have some experience that hurt, where they felt demeaned, where they felt misunderstood, where they worked so hard and got no recognition. And I'd like to just point out, that's a common experience. We find that faculty members are pretty self-motivated, passionate about what they do. They get some satisfaction out of their work, but they're not so likely to give Appreciation and recognition. Not a real good place to look to meet your emotional needs, social needs. So just take a little look inside. And if you're carrying around some questions about self-worth or how could you have handled this situation differently, to know that it's going to be your job to heal that wound, to find ways to handle situations like that in the future. And it's very interesting. I hear so many stories of people like you who asserted themselves in difficult situations. So a faculty member came in and started to blame and started to yell. And she said, "Oh my goodness, this is so important. I'd like to sit down and talk this over quietly and see what we could do about it." And the faculty member stopped yelling. He sat down. He was more respectful forever after that. And she said, "My knees were shaking. I went into the bathroom later and cried. It was really hard to stand up to this person." But I get many, many examples like that. So I am going to do my best to characterize faculty. Remember this generalization point. I would like to pause when I finish this and ask you to edit and add to my characterization of faculty. So remember when you were in high school and there were this kind of small group of really smart kids and they hung out together, and I don't know, in my school they read Greek poetry and they were into some physics stuff, and it was, what did you call those folks? Nerds? Yeah, geeks, nerds, yeah, like that. Well, now a lot of them are faculty members. Well, here's what. These faculty members were really great high school students, college students. They went to the best universities in this country, like this one, research universities. They were recognized by their professors as some of the best, encouraged to go to the academy, and indeed here they are, the best of the best. They arrive, and guess what? Everybody else who's arriving as faculty are the best of the best, and they have never been in a situation with competition on this level. It is pretty amazing. They are achievers, they are stars, they are competitors, they are used to working alone, and they are used to winning. Success. What does success mean? I believe that many, many of your faculty members, especially the tenure track, want to contribute to the knowledge of the world, to create new methods, to push back the frontiers of science and the arts. And often they want to do something that's almost impossible to do, that has a relatively low percentage of being truly successful. In order to achieve these goals, they need to work really hard and long and maximize their time and effort. Multiple priorities, oh my goodness, you know better than I do. But it's teaching and committees and getting their grants out and research and keeping up with their fields and reading peer reviewing papers and advising students. I think it just goes on and on. Now, this contribution that they'd like to make has to come into the time that they carefully save and dedicate, because otherwise they get totally scheduled up. So they put up this shield around them because the graduate students want to talk to them. National Public Radio is calling. You want a piece of their time. Everybody wants their attention. And they do have some office hours, but they try to keep everybody out. Do you understand that it's the ability to carve out this particular time that is the critical variable in their success, and they get pretty good at doing it? That is strategically advantageous for them. And they must compete for resources. Oh my goodness, have you ever noticed how competitive these folks are? They get here, they have to compete with each other for tenure, for promotion first, for tenure, for grants, for publishing in the best journals, for lab space, for your time. And you know, it's a strange relationship these faculty members have with one another because they're competing with one another and they vote for each other's promotions. Isn't that a confusing thing? So they tend to be nice to each other. Yeah. Now, deans and chairs often rotate every 3 or 5 years, most places, right? They tend to be conflict averse. They don't want to deal with the great big issues. They don't want to manage faculty, and faculty don't want to be managed either. So we've got leaders who are not trained in leadership, who probably are not looking to have confrontations, and it's kind of worked the way it's worked for the last 6 centuries, so why not keep it the same, right? All right. Independent thinkers, independent workers, where are they when you need them? They are unavailable. Do they work at home? In the library? Starbucks? Where are they? Yeah. Now, the Myers-Briggs research suggests that they tend to be internal processors. You see them in the hall, but it looks like kind of the vacancy signs up because they're thinking. There's like a movie going, and that's where they are with their ideas. They tend to be big picture, long range, future possibilities, and they also tend to be task focused. They make decisions based on logic and data in general rather than on emotions. My observation is that staff as a group tend to be a little more interpersonally oriented, a little more in touch with their own feelings and other people's feelings. Generalizations are not always true, but I do have some Myers-Briggs research here. Now, this one is probably the most important. And the dean of the School of Education at Stanford a couple months ago said, "Susan, this was the piece that made all the difference in the world to me." I'm going to be quoting Gunseless, who's a law professor, and she wrote a book for chairs and deans. So faculty member writing to other faculty members. She said it really helps to understand faculty as insecure overachievers. They've always tried to do so much, and they've always gotten by with very effective work. And it's very important to realize that they are dealing with complex organizations like granting organizations. They are trying to work the system here. I just hope those aren't faculty members because I'm doing my best to describe them. And they're kind of right on a frazzled edge of doing as much as they can and trying to take on as much as they can. And they need to look like they're on the top of their game, And they aren't. In lots of ways. I mean, understanding information technology these days and all the new technology and how this organization works is very complex. But this insecurity frequently masquerades as arrogance. My husband pointed out, well, they better act like they got it together because they have to vote for each other. So they don't very often come and say, oh, I got a little disorganized and I'm a little late with this request and I'm so sorry, but would you be able to get it out? It's almost they do the seagull management, which is to fly in and dump something. And they don't own their own part of this. So I have some research on faculty stress. Now, it came out in 1993, so I tracked down the researcher who had moved from one university to another, Walt Gemelch, and he has a nice little book, something about faculty stress. Overly high self-expectations is the most important stressor. They are trying to do something that is indeed very difficult to do. And then you can read the others. Can you see it all? Am I standing in your way? Now, this is not a surprise. You already know this. But I'd like to invite you. Well, let me add in here. So I called Walt Gemelch, Dr. Gemelch, and I said, so do you think it's changed? And he said, I think it's pretty much the same. And I said, well, I think we should add technology. Yeah, he agreed with that. And then I was speaking somewhere else and they said, you just can't believe that the students are expecting so much from the university, from the faculty, from the staff, and then their helicopter parents are on the phone. Yeah, are you experiencing that too? What else might you want to add? First, to this list of stressors, and secondly, to my characterization of staff. I invite you to speak up. I'm doing my best here to characterize, but this is just my work, Help. Any suggestions? Are we on track? Well, what are we going to do about this? Well, it helps to see what individuals' motivations are, it helps to see what individual stressors are, and then see if we can use the intuition that we have developed and tuning in and see how we can work with each individual. So, from the staff point of view, and the faculty point of view, staff and faculty are different. And the reason that I gave you these handouts is mostly I want you to see the chart on the back. Would you look at that? Because someone said staff and faculty are apples and oranges, so I started to put it in a chart. And I've worked hard on this. I'd like your feedback. And somebody suggested it's a little more like oranges and volleyballs. Look at the back of my chart. What do you think? Please.
What this misses is a lot of staff do creative work, a lot of staff are research scientists.
Absolutely.
And the communications specialists and writers, so we have our own creative work that we do.
Yeah, and I did put creative under thinking style.
Yeah.
Because the point was beautifully made, that many of you are creative as working the system, as writers, as researchers yourselves, and it's very important to acknowledge your creativity. And one of the things I hear most is, how can I get this person to get me to help write their papers? I could really be helpful. I'm working with the librarians this afternoon, and information literacy is a huge issue. Yeah, so we put creative in here, both sides. Anything else? And then it is helpful to notice that faculty of different ages are different, and there's kind of a glut of baby boomers, my age and a little younger, who are hanging around because they love being here, and we kind of waiting for them to retire. They're not quite so tech savvy sometimes. They're a little bit old school sometimes, and some of them are really easy and wonderful. And I'll tell you, at a place like Stanford, there are still faculty members who have staff print out their emails and they don't do their own emails. Yes?
I think there could be room for an economic piece here.
Let's.
A lot of times in a conversation, it's kind of like, then we could do this, and then the staff member or the faculty member might volunteer, and then we can get other people to pay for it. So there's a way of like creating products that can be sold to your customers within the university, versus sometimes you think a staff person doesn't necessarily, they want to get the job done, they don't necessarily think that they'll then sell it to someone else.
This is very interesting. So I want to clarify. Is it the staff who think we could make a product out of this and we could sell it, or is it the faculty who think that way?
I think it's the faculty. The staff may be oriented toward getting the thing done and working through the
Yes.
to achieve it. But then there's an idea of like, well, then we can, there's a kind of a balance between collaboration and then also selling.
Collaboration, yeah. So there's a balance between collaboration and selling it. Many professors are looking to get patents, and universities share the money that comes in from patents in various different formulas with their faculty. And mostly faculty have wanted to share their information, get it out in those journals very quickly. And some universities are even suggesting, don't share it so fast. We could get a patent on it. We could own it. But the faculty member really wants to share it with the other experts. It's a very interesting economic question. Any other comments? I'm enjoying your comments. We'll have some questions later. Yes?
I think under work style, one of the things that struck me is that though they may do the levels of their work, they are often very deeply in communication with their peers, whether they are peer reviewing a journal, emailing someone they're collaborating with, responding to a student's paper with even careful grading. There's a lot of communication there, even if they aren't physically co-located.
Yes. Were you able to hear him back there? Even if they aren't physically co-located, faculty are very good at communicating with colleagues, with postdocs, with people in their conferences and the kinds of things that they're doing. Is that?
Yeah, it's not just they're good at it, but it's a big part of their work.
A big part of their work. I've been hearing some really surprising things, like faculty have been getting their hair cut, and they're all kind of getting the good promo pictures up there on the, isn't that interesting? It's like a whole new public thing happening with faculty members. I don't know how true that is. Shall we go on? So, faculty and staff, I'm suggesting, are a different group of people. Different people decide to go into the professorate in general from people who choose to be staff members. And besides, the faculty have these responsibilities and this big picture, and you have these responsibilities and this big picture. All legitimate, but very different ways of seeing the day-to-day as it moves along. So how do you see the faculty, or how do staff members? And I want to check in with you a moment. How many of you on the staff side do indeed have people who report to you, so your supervisor or manager? Lots of you do. I'll say something about that in a minute. But this may refer more to the people who report to you. But here's what I'm seeing. To some staff, some faculty may seem unaware of the procedures or unwilling to follow them. And isn't it interesting? It's like we ask them to log in to put in their expenses for travel. They don't want to log in. Did anybody ask them they want to? Or we ask them to register when they're going to be doing international travel, because we look around the world and see there are a lot of trouble spots and we want to be able to get them out of there if there's trouble. And they say, I'm not registering, you don't need to babysit me. You see, there's that kind of mindset. And compliance with what you need. How many of you spent half a week getting a signature? Yeah, or you go down and meet them outside their labs. Unaware of what you do, how long things take, how complex things are, how many departments are involved. I know a professor in a big medical school came to a staff member and said, I'd like a copy of this. And it was a 3-ring binder. It had a number of CDs in it. It had sections and lots of stuff to duplicate. And he said, could you have it for me in an hour? And the staff member said, this takes 4 hours to do this. And another person said, well, faculty members don't know how to tell time. I said, huh? She said, well, he wanted me to run this test and give him the results this afternoon. But when you start the test, these little thingies in here have to grow for a day. And there's no this afternoon going to be happening. This is interesting. To have unrealistic expectations. Many of you getting emails on the weekends. Phone calls at 6 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, I've heard stories about cleaning offices and making coffee and all kinds of things. And it's up to us to clarify what is appropriate given our job responsibilities. And it's legitimate to set some boundaries, but we want the skills for how to say no, how to deliver bad news, and to clarify what's okay and not okay. And for instance, I don't mind if people swear a little bit around me. They might hear it coming out of my mouth too, but I don't want anybody calling me honey. And you might be the other way around. We work out the relationships as we go along. Not to communicate, not to see the implications of their decisions, not to bring us up in early enough on their projects, because we could really help them, but we don't know what's going on. And everywhere I hear this thing about being mind readers. Unavailable, disorganized, and disrespectful. And I think there's a tremendous amount of unaware disrespect. They're not tuned in to that tone of voice. They just want something, or something happens. And it's kind of unintentional with a certain unawareness. And then I've just added intimidating. Isn't it interesting? There's a certain kind of people that if they're going about their business and something is a problem and it creates them a lot of trouble, what they want to do next is make trouble for somebody else. And like in the payroll department at one university said, we have to figure out whether somebody was just upset about something and so they're trying to upset us, or whether they really want something. Is this a problem to solve? This is an interesting notion. So how are we going to deal with this? I'd like to say some things about those of you who are managers. I believe that staff, oh my goodness, most universities, there used to be 5 people doing something and now there are 3. You have that sometimes here? It's a lot. And some of you about nodding your heads off out there because you know the workload. So as managers, I'll go quickly, help staff understand academia. Help them understand faculty. Feel free to use some of my material. I don't think it's published anywhere else. I'd like to have you attribute it to me. I've worked so hard, but I think it could be helpful. Help each person understand his or her role in context of how it makes a difference for education and how it makes a difference for research and how we couldn't do it without you. And to see things in context. I remember working with a great big laboratory, all parts of it all over the state of California. And what did the staff want? They wanted a little appreciation. Questions?
Any questions?
Get some of your scenarios. You know, I guess some other campuses have access to this. So if you go to the microphones, they'll be able to hear.
Yeah.
What are some of the ways, thank you by the way, this is great.
Thank you.
What are some of the ways that you see information, and if you have, information technology used to support this relationship? So I'm kind of thinking web portals or collaboration platforms. Have you seen that at all, supporting faculty, staff, relationships, collaboration?
I've seen some of it, and I think it is a wonderful thing to have you articulate that, because I could learn more about that. I know the librarians are doing a lot with some webinars and some wikis and some blogs and all of that. I know that we need to know which of the faculty want to be text messaged and which want to be emailed, and a lot of staff members have a little grid with how do you approach each one. But let's ask the group, do you have some ideas of using technology? And of course, whenever we come up with good ideas, we get maybe a 60 or 70% adoption rate, and then we have to do the old way with some of the people. Yes. Thank you, folks, for attending. Any ideas? By the way, I'd like to give you my card, and let's talk about that. And I know a real hotshot at Stanford who's like speaking all over the world on this topic. Let's call him. Okay, we'll do a conference call with this man. Okay. Yes?
On the technology, one thing that my boss said I discussed is little keywords you can use, like I'll send him an email with FYI.
Yes.
And that means that I'm going to say what the problem is in one sentence, what the actual solution is. Okay, what the solution is in one sentence, and then what I'm going to do about it, right? When you start on it. The other thing is, he will tell me executive decision when he doesn't want feedback.
When he doesn't?
When he doesn't want feedback, yeah.
When he doesn't, he'll tell you when he doesn't want feedback.
Or the decision is final.
If the decision is final, that's right. We all have to learn that once a decision is made, it doesn't help.
Right. I think one thing that's very confusing is when people say I can't do this.
Right. We need to learn how to say no. At Notre Dame, I say, so what do you say when you don't have time to say something? And they say, oh, well, we just have to do it. Well, that's just not realistic anymore. You have to know how to say no. Yeah, I didn't paraphrase that very well. Please.
I got a specific situation that seems to come up
in more than one department where I work. You said like faculty don't keep track of time, and yet we close at noon and we close at 5, and each department that I've worked in, there seems to be one faculty member who will come in at 5:05 or 11:55 once or twice a month.
Yes.
And I'm never quite sure what to do about it, because it's often with a really important problem that needs to be dealt with.
And if that had an easy answer, you would have thought of it long time ago. So if we... What's the word I'm looking for? If we enforce the closing time, they're not going to like it. But they won't come at twice a month anymore. And that's a trade-off. And if you can make it clear, the best I can think of, is we are closing at 5, and then create a visual picture of, it's really important that we do, after the doors are closed, or I have a 5-year-old waiting at daycare. I mean, make a visual picture. And when you say I have to go to a class, It doesn't matter if it's aerobics class. You got to go, right? So let them see that you have scheduled your day around this close and that there's something going to happen that they can picture. And then say this time. And next time, we're not going to be able to make this particular accommodation for you as an exception. You see, accommodation for you So try to manage their expectations. Yeah. Okay, any other items? Oh, please.
I recently moved from the office of a chair who relied really heavily on her assistant
Yes.
to the office of a chair who's never had an assistant before.
Yes.
And that department has also not had an assistant to the chair for many years. So I feel like I'm being a little bit underutilized compared to what I'm used to, and maybe I'm used to being overutilized. But how can I, do more without offending anyone? Or do you have any suggestions on, how I can, help the chair to let me help her?
I have a few suggestions, and this is very difficult. And I've heard a number of instances where people felt like they were given so much responsibility. It was so exciting to be involved, and then somebody new came in, and they were treated like they were like the old-fashioned clerk or something. So I'd like to suggest that you sit down with this person and demonstrate some of what you did, even if you have some examples of that, and show them how you have added value and how you have partnered, and maybe really look around and see what needs to be done, because what faculty members really like is just-in-time service. If you see that they need something and you've got it right then, and you'll even load it into their computer, it's like you're right there. And expect some change over time. I think that having them know that you're there to help them, that you've done it before, and to have a mindset, a picture in here of how to use an assistant, because many of them have never had an assistant before. And what you can do. There's some other suggestions in my book. I know of several people who've gotten depressed staff members, when they had been given a whole lot of responsibility and a new person came in. Take good care of yourselves during this time, and find ways to add value, and sit down and really talk it over. I have some contributions here, and I'd like to have my resources contribute to the education in this department. So you're focused on what's good for them in education, research. Best wishes to you.
Thank you.
Hi, do you have any successful strategies that could assist faculty with expressing appreciation?
Very little. It's just not part of their growing up experience, I believe. I believe that many people who've chosen a world of the mind have found that they had to solve problems in their environment. And that often the problems, I'm getting psychological here, but often the problems are not about just being loved for who you are, and not just having the connection with people that is really so deeply fulfilling. Now, this is not true of everybody. But the task-oriented people are likely to treat the people around them like parts of a machine. You didn't do this right, and you ought to do that, and go do this. And if you did it, fine. And what I hear is you do 100 things, and you do 99 things right, and one thing. And what do you hear about? One thing. Yeah. So this appreciation, I think a lot of it is to realize it's much less a part of the academic culture than it is even in hospitals, and in corporations. It's a difficult part. But I often say, please don't expect the professors to meet your social and emotional needs, but find good friends, colleagues, staff members, and support each other, appreciate each other, and make it work from that point of view, and not have expectations that are not going to work. One more, and then I'll end with the story. Yes. Yes, you're doing fine, the one in the pink. If we have people on other campuses, they'd appreciate your coming up to the mic.
This one? This mic doesn't. Well, I was going to tell her that I supervise 9 assistants who help faculty with all kinds of different things. And I regularly email the faculty with this name of the person that helped them and what they helped them with. And eventually they get trained and they do reply to me, and then I can share that feedback. It's only taken about 7 years.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that.
If you have kudos at the staff meetings or your department meetings, don't be afraid to toot your own horn and put your own kudo in for yourself so that they know what you're doing.
That's great. And know that there are many times that staff members need to find another job on this university, because you have a job where you can't feel good about yourself. If you stay there, you're likely to get depressed. So if you're feeling good about yourself, you will not allow yourself to stay in a place that is not good for you. And that's very important, because this is a wonderful university and there are lots of good jobs, but don't get beat down. We want to pull together. I think it might be time. Do you?
Sorry.
Anita, thank you.
Let's give Susan a
Oh, wow, thank you.
So if you waited this long, you're waiting for the raffle. Okay. So we have 4 items to raffle. The first is a book by Susan. It's back in the back table. Sure. Well, let's just leave that here. You can hold this. I'm just going to grab it. I'm not in the raffle, so it's completely independent. The number is 232244. I'm checking DC to see if it's a Tacoma or Bothell number.
DC's not here.
That's me.
No!
No, it's not. I need to check this.
I was going to say, Brian, that can't be you. You got this. 232244.
Yes.
It's a Tacoma.
Tacoma.
Tacoma got
Yay,
that.
Tacoma.
Great. Okay, Tacoma got a book. Great.
And that was for what?
That was for Susan Christie's book, Working Effectively with Faculty, and this is the second book. We're going to give one other way. Working Effectively with Faculty, Guidelines for Higher Education Staff and Managers. The number is 232441.
Winner? Anybody here?
Oh, man. Okay, we got to mix it up a little bit. We're mixing.
Mix that.
Tacoma got that one. That's
Good for
wonderful.
Tacoma.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is for?
This is for a Opus Ultra Form back support for your chair. 232327. 232327.
If you're not here,
Okay, so
we're going to
hand
keep
it out.
rolling.
Okay.
Keep your numbers.
Keep numbers. 232464. 232464.
Yay!
Woo! Lovely. Collect this too. Okay, finally, for the bank and office interiors office chair that you might have seen on the way in. This is an office chair. It's kind of fancy. The number is 232422. Oh, Brian's demonstrating by lifting the chair. Thank you, Brian.
We'll keep going.
Okay, we'll keep going.
2422.
Yes. 232422.
Oh!
Oh, got it. Okay. Wow. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming, taking any of the drinks that you want.
Sue will be in the back signing books.
Okay.
Yes. And if you want to speak to her just a little bit more. Thank you, everybody.